Former chair of the board of South African Airways, Dudu Myeni, was a no-show in court again today. The case against her has once again been postponed. Myeni led the SAA board between 2012 and 2016. Lobby group OUTA, the organisation undoing tax abuse, as well as the SAA Pilots Association, have brought the case against her to have her declared a delinquent director based on her leadership during that period. Now, a successful bid could ensure she no longer acts as a company director. Myeni has pleaded poverty. Yesterday, she said she could not afford transport to the court nor accommodation in Pretoria. Her former lawyer, Daniel Mancha, made a surprise appearance in court today. He said she couldn't afford legal representation and asked the court to postpone the case until she had funding. OUTA's legal team has pointed out that Myeni was an active director for 13 companies. Myeni has now been given until tomorrow to file an application for the postponement of the case resuming on Thursday. Well, to discuss, we're now joined by the CEO of one of the applicants in that case, OUTA's CEO, Wayne Duvenage. Thank you for being with us.
Nice
Wayne.
to be with you.
So let's just put this in perspective. Is this the first time a former chair of a state-owned enterprise could be potentially declared delinquent?
Certainly a chair and certainly somebody at that level. I think there have been two cases, but they were argued on the papers. I'm not sure which state-owned entity it was, but these cases are very rare. And this one in particular has been 2.5 years in the making. And finally we get to go to court and we have these no-shows, which I think is just showing absolute disrespect to the legal process.
So she did say she didn't have the cash. There is some concern that she doesn't have cash from SAA itself. I mean, how do the rules work? Because she was in her official capacity at the time as chair of the SAA board.
Yeah, I think that they have applied for the insurance to pay out in this case, but the insurance, as far as we understand, is very clear when it comes to conduct of the nature that she's being charged for, state capture matters, and I think she has doesn't qualify in this matter. But and that has been brought to attention some time ago. Her lawyers have been bringing her to attention on the case itself. It should have been in her diary. And, you know, if you can't afford it, you need to apply for legal aid. I'm not sure if she would qualify for that, from my understanding. You know, if you're a property owner and you own vehicles and you can get around, you need to get to court. You cannot just not show up. And she's got a lot of answering to do.
Well, do you buy it, that she doesn't have the funds for accommodation or petrol?
Don't buy that at all.
How many boards does she serve on at the moment?
So at the moment, I think it's 4 boards. One is a state-owned institution, one is the Jacob Zuma Foundation, and 2 other organizations.
Okay, and technically you get paid for each and every meeting if you're on a board.
Yeah.
What does a delinquent director mean? What would that result in for her?
That would result in her not being able to serve in a senior capacity, an executive capacity, certainly as a director and a chairperson in any organization in South Africa for up to 7 years. And remember, we took this case on 3 years ago when she was still very active in that space. Jacob Zuma was still the president, and we had no idea of what was coming. Yeah. But you've got to be resilient and you've got to stay the course on these matters that take a long time, and here we are.
But there will be no recourse for taxpayers, for anyone affected by decisions made by SAA under her leadership?
Well, that doesn't mean to say that other cases won't come after this, and we are sure to bring some other cases, criminal charges, potentially trying to recoup monies without a doubt. But we felt at the time we needed to stop her from being able to behave in the way she has on any other board, and that's why we chose this direction then. But there are other matters.
Okay, so there are a lot of claims against her. At the Zondo Commission, Angela Agrizzi said that she handed over a pack of confidential information about police and NPA cases against Bosasa. Former SAA execs spoke to the State Capture Commission saying that she encouraged them to do illegal things. She was interfering in tenders, a whole lot of things like that. But what hard evidence do you have? What are you trying to use to have her declared a delinquent?
So ours, there's 5 matters. Remember, a chairperson may not interfere in the operations of the organization, certainly not in a manner that creates additional costs or reduces its revenue opportunities. So if it's not in the best interest, a business should not be behaving that way. Directors, certainly not a chairperson, non-executive director interfering. The first one is on the BNP Capital deal, where there was this boutique finance company that was bought in to do the work that the Treasury within SAA was qualified and has been doing for a long time. And then when that was scuppered and they did not qualify for any cancellation fee, she motivated a 49 million rand cancellation fee. So that's one area. The other is around the Airbus deals, how she manipulated minutes and tried to take 10 purchase agreements outside, make it only 2, and then bring in a finance arrangement through some other entity. There is the matter on the Emirates deal. Sorry, the first, that one I just repeated was Airbus deal. And then there's the Emirates deal that SAA was in its final stages of concluding, which would have saved the organisation, been able to create additional billions of rands over time for SAA, and that was scuppered at the last minute by her interference and so-called Jacob Zuma's request, which we still need to get the...
And does it look like she was often interfering for friends? Or maybe on Zuma's behalf? Interfering
in a manner that would cost this organisation more money or lose its revenue, with the hope that other deals were done, and who was going to benefit from those deals still needs to be ascertained, but certainly SAA wasn't going to benefit.
What came out regarding the CFO going to the Zondo Commission? And we've heard this over and over again across SOEs, that people on the board were interfering, they were doing things that executives knew they weren't allowed to. But the executives often complied. I mean, has that been the problem? Because certainly you can say, no, what you're asking me is wrong, I can prove it. We can go to court if need be.
Exactly, and this is the thing that has panned out in many of these state-owned institutions. This is part of the modus operandi of state capture, is to hijack the boards, the chairs, and then start hijacking the executive officers, and if they don't comply, pressure is brought to bear on them. And we've seen that in SAA, specifically with the CFO and others who are now very cautious as to how they answer, because they are witnesses and they have been subpoenaed to give testimony in this matter on why they behaved in this way. So you saw the previous CFO throw Dudu Myeni under the bus at the commission. Those statements are very valuable in our case as well. But we're going to have to see how that pans out in the cross-examination.
And are there any other former chairs in your sights?
Oh yes, Ben Ngubane from Eskom has been on other matters, and we'll be looking at further opening those. I mean, there's no shortage of stuff that is coming our way. We've got to be very selective in how we handle them. But what we are doing is asking the boards of these organizations, the new boards, to start doing this work, because they shouldn't leave it up to civil society. They've got the minutes of the board meetings, they've got the contracts, the procurement transgressions, and they should be holding Dudu Myeni and others to account, not civil society. But we'll continue to do our work as much as we can, and hopefully they'll start doing a lot of that work.
All right, what do you hope happens on Thursday? Because I understand her old lawyer came and said she can't afford me, but she is getting a lawyer that will work for her for free, and she'll ask for another postponement.
Well, that lawyer is going to have to put up a very good argument to ask for postponement. We are going to object to that. She's had ample time. This should have been in her diary a long time ago. We know, we've got an understanding of correspondence that she knew very well that she wasn't going to have the financial support from SAA. She's left this far too late, and she has to have an extremely strong reason, and hopefully we'll not allow the postponement. But if it does happen, I think we're getting a very clear message from the court that this is not going to be postponed for years. This is going to be brought back into court very soon. Remember, we still have 3 weeks available to us. We booked that time with the court, so it could be that we start the case a bit late and it continues later on in the year.
I do understand there's a window opening, like the former President Jacob Zuma argued that the case had been postponed for too long. Could she use that as well, where this has been delayed, dragging on since 2017?
No, it hasn't been delayed. It was been delayed for 2 days by her. This case was booked in court because, remember, this is argued in action, not in the papers. This is where we've got witnesses lined up, subpoenaed to come and answer in cross-examination in court, and she's been subpoenaed. And we've had 3 weeks, not easy to get 3 weeks. That's why it took so long to get the court dates in the diaries of the court. So it's only been postponed for 2 days, but we're not going to let this one off the hook.
All right. Thank you very much. CEO of OUTA Wayne Duvenage, and we'll pick up on that case when it resumes in the High Court in Pretoria on Thursday.